Hello and welcome to today's Fireside chat with Chief Data Officer Craig and Chief Information Officer Anna, both from University Technology, Sydney. Now, data is part of each department's story, but for the InfoSec function, few come close to how collaborative their relationships have become. During this Fireside chat, we'll unpick what it takes to have meaningful and successful collaborations between the two departments. And I would like to welcome you both. Welcome to the festival. And for the benefit of our audience, please could you give us an introduction into your roles? I'm not sure who wants to go first.
Yeah, look, thanks, Mariana. It's wonderful to be here today with Anna. I commenced in the Chief Data Officer role here at UTS at the start of 2020. It came as a result of a real recognition and acknowledgement of the importance of data and the value it can create in driving evidence-driven decisions. My role primarily focused on developing the UTS data strategy, and I'm very well and truly embedded in implementation and execution of the strategy across four major areas. Those being compliance, data risk and data management across the data lifecycle, creating efficiencies through the delivery of data pipelines and increased time to value. Previously, it was the information we needed. Supporting the generation of new revenue sources and developing our artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities. So I'm quite fortunate. I'm in the enviable position where I have a chance to work with some amazing and inspiring staff and students at UTS to deliver these exciting outcomes. So, yeah, and it's great to be here with you too, Anna.
Thank you, Anna.
Hi, so I'm Anna Aquilina. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer for UTS. And it's great to be here, so thank you for the invitation and thank you, Craig. So I've been in the role since February 2021, so a year after Craig, really, and it was the CISO role was new to UTS at that stage, so they had a small but strong cybersecurity team for some time. But again, my role was really established in the recognition by the executive that more investment was required in cybersecurity and sort of an elevation of that discussion about cyber threats, the risks they present to the organization and how we can manage them most effectively. So yeah, we have a well-established cybersecurity program in place and work closely with Craig.
So obviously you're both relatively new. So what's quite interesting is how much do you currently collaborate as CDO and CISO?
Yeah, look, it's important that we do collaborate as CDO and CISO. From my perspective, and I'm sure Anna will have a view, that each of our roles play a very critical part in ensuring that we can, one, protect our information and our data assets, but also at the same time ensure we've got the processes in place that enable data to be leveraged in a way that adds value to the university. Anna and I are in frequent contact, and I think would be in touch probably at some stage, at least, every fortnight at a minimum. And, from a scheduled catch-up to attending project meetings and even just a general update on something that maybe seemed interesting that I think Anna might be interested in becomes very important. So it's that water cooler conversation, being now back in the office, that we can sort of bump in and just have those real genuine conversations around what's important from both the data and a cyber perspective.
So it does sound like you get on, which I think helps in any sort of collaboration, which is great. And just out of interest, how did this collaboration, this partnership begin? So who approached who? Was it more of maybe a more organic process?
Do you want to go, Craig?
Look, I'll go with that. And look, I'm sure Anna will have something to say just around the collaboration and also the partnerships. I think as Anna mentioned, I'd started here at UTS about 12 months before Anna. And in our very first conversation, it must have been probably, a few weeks after that, just initial introduction, really where we were sharing details about our roles and what we were in for, I guess, to an extent. I was able to provide really an overview of the UTS data strategy, a bit of a view on our current state and really highlighting some areas of focus for the university. And I think it was at that first meeting, we probably could have spoken for hours, that I realised that, we really both had an important role to play in our collective success of both what we were trying to do through data and strategy and the data strategy for the university. So it was important that we work together. And I think the conversation really continued regular standing meetings, and I think over that time those interdependencies have actually increased over time and seen what I think is a significant improvement in both our cyber and data capabilities. I'm sure Anna's got probably her views on how that collaboration partnership began as well.
Yeah, I mean, very similar to Craig. I mean, I was new in February, and it was one of my very early meetings was with Craig. I remember everyone kept saying, "Oh, you need to meet Craig. You need to meet Craig," and so we caught up. And I mean, for me, I was new to the higher education sector, new to universities, so I have to say Craig was wonderful in sort of updating me on that as well. Right, Kat? And yeah, we discovered these. I mean, obviously, data protection, data security is at the heart of it, but all sorts of other areas where we can also work together. So, and I think we'll talk about some of those examples in a minute.
Definitely, as you're saying, so it's obviously a very crucial, or a very crucial time that now people are collaborating, but especially in your roles as the ISO and CDO. And to then continue on from what you were saying, Anna, what have some of those successes been in collaborating with each other?
So from my perspective, I guess one of the early successes really was having Craig come on to the Cybersecurity Steering Committee, which we established, I don't know, about 4 months into my starting, because governance was one of the areas we really needed to get more maturity around relatively quickly. And therefore it was important to have a fairly good cross-section of the university there, and having Craig on that steering committee is really valuable. And then there are initiatives, sort of information classification, data management discussions had been ongoing, but really we picked up on that very early on. And I think there were sort of successes in confirming the classification of data and starting to get a better understanding across the university of which data resides, the classification level, and then on the security side, obviously, we're then looking at the controls we put around the differing levels of classification. And that's an ongoing challenge that we're working on, is how to better identify and track data. I'm not yet going to say control, but how we just have that better awareness and visibility. And then also, I think we have established crown jewels for the university, so those assets that really matter most to us as an organisation, and the data that also matters most. And again, Craig and myself and our teams have worked together on helping sort of shore up our knowledge and confidence around how well we're protecting those crown jewels.
And Craig, any of your successes in doing so and collaborating together?
Yeah, look, I think, as Anna articulated, there's been a couple of examples whereby, I think the strength in working together has delivered some really positive and successful outcomes. I think one of the items that is really so critical is around those information security classifications. This was a project that really revolved around many different people at the university, being really, I guess, a tightly run project between Anna and her team, and also myself and my team, but also the many data stewards around the university as well. So it was a truly a very collaborative, really delivered some significant success. I think equally what is always, really quite important is about building some of the capability within team. And obviously that's really something quite important as part of the data strategy and equally and as cyber strategy. And, I think just the increased awareness in some of the capabilities, the training, the responsibilities that sort of looked at around our information security classification training. We've got, quite a wealth of artifacts around our cyber strategy that Anna's been instrumental in really building in her team, but equally privacy as well and bringing that into the conversation. So, we've really got a holistic approach that's building capability in team, but also some of the technology capability that is really driving some of these successes. And I think one of the other aspects that I would just like to add is just around our monitoring and reporting. I think it was probably an area that we recognise that, it's great to have these things in place, but are they actually being used? So, just with Anna's expertise and drive, we've been able to sort of enhance some of the monitoring and reporting of a lot of the work that we've done in this space as well. That, now we're able to create some visibility and identify some of the risks associated with why we're doing it and why we're doing it. So, again, further raises the awareness and create a greater awareness of what we're doing. So, yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, and also Craig's team is also helping us as a team get better at using Power BI to better understand our data, which is really helpful.
No, it sounds like a very, I was going to say collaborative, it sounds like a very organic process. And I think your successes will always come with challenges. So I will put you on the spot now and say, what are some of the challenges that come with either alongside those successes or just generally as you're collaborating together?
Yeah, look, I might start with that, Anna, if you like.
Yeah.
I think we're both sort of rather open about the challenges. I think one of the things that, I've experienced, and I think equally about Anna as well, is just around there's so much demand for data, but also, I guess, really a lot of work in protecting our assets as well. So, from a data point of view, I would probably really say that some of the resource challenges has been, I think a challenge to manage. Some of Anna's priorities may not always be the priorities that I have on as well. So what I'm not saying is that cyber isn't important, but what I'm saying is that the monitoring and reporting of some of those things may not be as important as looking at a new revenue stream. So one of the things is that we do need to be open. Anna and I, in these constant conversations we have, is that we are quite open. We're sort of sharing some of the things that we can do or when we can do something as well. So, it's really a conversation. It's not about that we can't do everything, but it's just when can we do some of these things becomes so important, so prioritisation. And I guess another aspect, and I'm not too sure if Anna was going to touch on this, was just obviously part of the capability of Dame building AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning capability, and I want to be able to use data, I guess, really in a way that supports some of the key business purposes. And, I think in a way that we do also need to manage that from a privacy and also a cyber point of view there as well. So, whilst I want to leverage data, we need to be able to do it securely. So we do have some good conversations around how we use it, how we use the data as we move forward.
Yeah, and I mean, really mirror that. There's zero conflict in what we do. There's no argument, but it is really just that figuring out where we can prioritize the same things, and where we can't, how we best sort of support one another, and we'll find a way. But it's just, again, that's where the talking regularly helps, that we can just sort of raise these issues, talk about them, come up with a plan, put team members in touch, or bring in other support if we need to. So I think that it's a very open discussion, and as Craig said, we are honest about the challenges that we're facing as sort of individual teams, as well as perhaps what the university is facing in challenges. Obviously, we're all in a resource-constrained environment. But it's really, overall, it's an extremely positive relationship, and I think we recognise jointly that data security is an area that we have to improve. Like, we all accept that, and then we're pacing ourselves as to how we do that and how quickly we can mature. Because there's all sorts of things, we also need to bring the business along with us and things like that. So, yeah, it's quite a long journey, but it's making some very strong steps.
And do you find yourself having to almost knock your heads together every so often and just check that you're collaborating in the right way and to adapt the way you collaborate in that very organic process? Or is it maybe more regimented?
I think it is fairly organic. And things are changing across the university so quickly as well that we all have to adapt, new technologies or new ways of working. And obviously the sort of going from remote working, fully remote working, hybrid working back on premises also has some impacts on the data side and the security side. So we're only regimented in that we do have regular meetings in the diary, and also with the steering committee, but there's a lot of ad hoc chatting as well.
Whenever you need to.
Yeah, I think, Mariana, if I can probably just also add, one of the things that I think makes probably my life a little bit easier, and equally Anna's, is that we are supported by highly capable teams and expertise across the university. And I think whilst Anna and I have our regular catch-ups, our teams are communicating quite regularly, and being able to sort of probably get into the finer level of detail than probably Anna and I do, that are able to surface some of the issues much earlier, and we're able to sort of at least be able to consider and resolve them should they, come to the surface. So, we are supported by excellent teams that, provide a strength of support and continue that collaboration across the university as well, which is, quite amazing.
So for anyone listening in, for the data leaders listening in, what would be your biggest advice to them, Craig?
Look, I think, when Anna commenced here at UTS, I think I was really quite fortunate to work very closely with her. She had a wealth of experience in, cyber security. And really, to be honest, that's an area that, is not as strong within my capabilities. And so I sort of would like to probably say that, my advice would be, the CISO is one of your biggest allies. They complement, a CDO's skills. And, I think we each offer a range of different perspectives. And I think if we can leverage our collective skills and expertise in a partnership type approach, we're working together. We're enhancing the effectiveness, the efficiencies, and the way in which we access, the way in which we classify data, our privacy and governance. And, I think it is truly a collaborative partnership that comes together that really provides significant value. So, CISO is your biggest ally. And, as I said, I'm quite fortunate to be working quite closely with Anna here at UTS. I think also just being able to get the foundations right and to be able to move forward. And I'm sure Anna might touch on just some of that aspect around our information security being sort of some of that foundation. I touched on around the work about investing in your teams to build both the data and digital capabilities and literacy. That is, really quite important. And, I think recognize that people do need data. So it's not about protecting it and locking it down. It's about how you can ensure within a framework you can securely share that information that will drive and improve some of the decision making for the organisation.
So Anna, what about you? What would you like to impart?
Well, I guess similar, very similar really, is that, do collaborate, share the problem, talk about issues that you're facing. And again, I think, personally, Craig and I, are lucky to work with one another, and we get on very well, as do our teams. And it is, I think, a very naturally collaborative environment within the university as well. So we have that sort of all around us. But from a focused cybersecurity perspective, often I think the approach is to really try to control data a lot more than perhaps is required for meeting business needs. So in the university in particular, we have to be open and collaborative. That is the business of the university. And obviously my aim and Craig's aim is to do that as much as possible, as well as possible, as efficiently as possible, but also as securely as possible. But from our perspective, that means we do have to recognise we can only control so much. We're never going to be able to really lock down data to the extent probably I want to manage risks, but that's good for the university. If I got my way, it would have perhaps some negative impacts on some of the researchers and teachers and things like that across the university. So to be very aware of the business. And I think one thing, I'm a year and a half in, I am new to a university, but, one really big piece of advice, I guess, is do learn. If you're not familiar with higher education, probably that goes with every organisation, before you want to start locking things down, really do understand what's at the heart of that organisation and what makes it tick. So you can then tailor sort of the prioritisation and the type of controls that you put in place to benefit the organisation rather than sort of create more blocks. So, but overall, yeah, I mean, we don't have that sort of block situation, I don't think, but we are looking to create some better processes and things like that to better secure data.
So I think I already know the answer to this, but I assume you will continue collaborating as you have done for this time?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as you've sort of seen and just through some of the successes, I think there is strength in collaboration. We'll continue to collaborate. And I think one of the other benefits is that, by having, a united front, as we can, split our powers, so to speak, and support the university, but remain connected. So, yeah, absolutely, we'll continue the collaboration. I think we've delivered some great successes.
Yeah, if not to extend it, I think we're about to start a couple of joint initiatives. So the teams and we'll be working even more closely on those.
Well, I certainly look forward to having you back with me again, and we can hear about all the other departments that you've collaborated with. It sounds like it's a growing area, and I really look forward to hopefully inviting you back very soon. And until then, I'd like to thank you both for joining me on this talk. But do you have any final thoughts, anything you've not had a chance to say?
Oh, I think I've covered most of it, really.
Well, in that case, I'll say thank you very much, and I do hope to see you again and have you join me very, very soon.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mariana. Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.